Okay. Sagt der Heilige Gemara. Sagt der Heilige Mishnah. Hamader is ishtoi shaloi telech leavia. A person made a nether for his wife that she should not go to her father's house. Don't go visit home. Kishahein bisman shahu ima be'ir. If they live in the same city as her parents, well then chodesh echad yikayim, for 1 month. It's possible for her to live without going to her parents, and therefore the marriage stays. But Shnayim, if he wants to extend that ban more than a month, Yosy v'yitin ksuba. He has to give his wife a divorce, and he has to pay her ksuba. But it was mancha behu b'iracheres. But if her parents live in a different city, where Rashi says they're bitam lalechasestam bergolim, then their daughter doesn't visit them regularly, but she'll come for Yom Tov. Then regal echad yikayim, she could miss 1 Yom Tov. But shloisha yoytzi v'yitin ksuba. But 3 yoytzi v'yitin ksuba. So Rashi says regal echad motzi mukma nafsha. She could survive without going to her parents for 1 Yom Tov. But shloisha, 3 is already too much. L'motzi mukma. The Gemara porcha shnayimai. So the Gemara asks, what about 2 months? Because the Mishnah skips from 1 to 3. Hamader is ishtoi shloi telech lebeis avos. If someone makes another on his wife to ask her from going to a beis avos to be menachem avos, or to beis mishnah, or to stop her from going to a chasana. Once again, that's not considered a livable situation. Yotzi v'yitin ksuba. Why? B'nei shenoil b'fanel, which the Gemara is going to explain that he's taking away certain important opportunities for her. And if he claims the reason why he's not doing it is because of davar achar, which once again the Gemara is going to explain, Rashoi, then he's allowed to restrict her. Amar la, what if he told her that you told me some type of secret. I'm going to divorce you unless, or I'm going to ask you me unless you tell someone else, you tell some person some private thing that you told me. Or something that I told you. You should fill up and dump in the ashba. Again, the Gemara is going to explain what these things are. Yoitzi v'yitin ksuba. That creates an intolerable atmosphere, and therefore you have to give her a get and give her the ksuba. Correct the Gemara, hagufa kasha. Let's go back to the second case in the Mishnah, where the Mishnah goes from 1 month to 3 months. I'm sorry, from 1 regel to 3 regel. Hagufa kasha. You said in a case where her parents live in a different city, if he stops her from visiting her parents 1 regel, that's tolerable. So I would be medayik from that. If he stopped her from going to her parents the second Yom Tov, well, then he has to divorce her. But let's look at the next line in the Mishnah. Shloisha yoytzi v'yitin ksuba. Hashnayim yikayim. So the question is, there's a stira, what is the halacha if he prevents his wife from visiting her parents 2 times? Amar Abaye, Seifa also look at Hanes. The Seifa is also look at Hanes. So really, Bas Yisrael, someone who's married to Yisrael, she could only refrain from going to her parents 1 Yom. And if he tries a second Yom Tov, he has to give a get. But it's going where we want to try to salvage the marriage, because once there's a divorce, it's irrevocable. Therefore, we allow him 2 Yom Tovim, and we don't demand to get until the 3rd Yom Tov. Good morning. Rabbi Yehudi, and it's going according to Rabbi Yehuda. Like Rabbi Yehuda told us in the last Mishnah, that for a kohen, we try to extend the terms because once the kohen gives a get, the kohen cannot take her back. Rabbi Barul Amar loy kasha kan beradufa kan b'sha eina redufa. And Rashi says, what does a redufa mean? A redufa is a woman who's Redufa leilech lebeisavia tamid. A woman who's normally clingy to her parents, and she's always going to visit her parents, shnayim yotzi. She won't be able to survive more than one Yom Tov without going to her parents. But she'eina redufa. But if she's a woman who's more independent, then shnayim yekayim, and only a third Yom Tov will she need to be able to go visit her parents. So redufa, according to Rashi, means you assess what type of woman this woman is. If she's a woman who needs her parents very much, she's clingy to her parents, so then she has only one Yom Tov can she survive without them. But if not, if she's not so clingy, then 2 Yom Tov she could survive. Tosfos has some different pshat. Tosfos brings down from the Rach that the regal rishon he regila leilech lahagat shvachim b'veisavia v'regal sheni einer redufa. So Tosfos says if it's the first Yom Tov, that's when it's a big deal. But if it's the second Yom Tov, then it's a much different story. So Tosfos must listen to Ketoni regal echad yekayim hainu b'redufa b'regal rishon shalehol chadayin b'shum pam achar lahagat shvacha. And we'll see what lahagat shvacha means in a minute. So zokt the heilige Gemara weiter. Once we're in the discussion of a woman who's redufa and not redufa, which we're explaining, raduf sounds like someone's running after her to chase her out. But that's not how we're touching redufa. We're touching redufa is that a woman who's clingy and always wants to run to her parents or not. So the Gemara switches modes a little bit into a milsa dagadita to discuss our relationship, Klal Yisrael's relationship with our husband, with the Rebbeinu Shalom. And the pasuk in Shir Shirim, which discusses the love of Rebbeinu Shalom to Klal Yisrael and vice versa, is Os hayisi be'einav. I was in his eyes, kemoitze shalom, like someone who's pure shalom. Rabbi Yochanan explains what does the pasuk mean? Kekala shenimtza shleima beveis chameha, like a kala who is found to be perfect in her husband's household. So her in-laws love her, and she's so excited to share that information with her parents that her in-laws love her so much, and therefore she's redufa leilech ulahaget shvacha beveis avia. So we were first learning redufa in our Gemara. Redufa meant she's clingy, she needs her parents. Rabbi Yochanan is telling the two to Klal Yisrael and the Rebbeinu Shalom, who's compared to a kala who, why does she want to run to her parents? Not because she wants to run away from her home, because she's so excited about what a wonderful marriage she has and what a wonderful relationship she has with her in-laws that she runs to tell her parents about it. Tikri ishi la'asad lovoi. We're no longer going to be called Baili. Hashem is going to be called Ishi. Ishi is much more personal, like Rashi says, Lashon Ishus v'nisuin. So eventually, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be considered to us as Ishi, meaning we'll be Nisua to their Rebbeinu Shalom. But we're not going to be Arusa to their Rebbeinu Shalom. So now we're only Arusa to their Rebbeinu Shalom. We're connected to him, and we're not allowed to be mezana. We can't put our faith elsewhere, but we're not nesua yet. Lasad lavai will be one with the Rebbeinu Shalom, then we'll be nesua. Amar b'yochanan kechala beveis chameha v'lo kechala beveis aviyah. Kechala beveis chameha is Rashi shekfar nises the gas liba bebaila. She's already a nesua, and now she's already comfortable with her husband. And she's not uncomfortable around him. So right now we're with Bechinas Harusa, and Asad Lavi will be with the Bechina of Nesua, will be one with the Rebbeinu Shalom. So now it makes a little more sense, Tosfos. So Pirish Rach the Regal Rishon he regila leilach lahagat shvacha beveis aviyah. When will she go run? So Tosfos learns not like Rashi that Redufa, that the Gemara is answering to explain our Mishnah, is referring to the same type of Redufa that the Gemara brought from Rabbi Yochanan. So the first Yom Tov, a woman wants excited to run to her parents to tell her parents how great her marriage is. But for Regal Sheni, ain't a difficult kaf. The second Yom Tov, she's not so excited to go. Even though she hasn't yet reported to her parents how everything is. It's not like nowadays where first thing in the morning the parents call the kala, knew is everything okay? In those days, they didn't find out till their daughter made it back for Yom Tov. The Mishnah that says that one Yom Tov she can survive without going, Hainu Berdufa, Beregal Rishon, meaning if she never had a chance to report back to her parents, then she could only survive on Yom Tov. Is b'she'eni redufa. Kloimar b'regel sheni or shlishi shel chuppah she'eni redufa. She doesn't need to go. Aval b'shadayin lo'higid shvacha, even though she didn't yet report to her parents how wonderful she has it. Hoyel ve'ichra milalechas regel rishon. Since she didn't go to first Yom Tov, she's not so excited to go. V'asi shaper hadagashin b'chol svarim d'chsiv v'gasin nami v'marvechanon u'lefisha kundris like Doris d'chsiv. So the question is in our Gemara, we're not going to Chsiv. But in other Yosy it says Chsiv because we're referring to the same type of Svar. Rashi learns that the Svar of Redufa Bayas is different than just what type of woman she is. Gewaltig. Hamader Sishtoy. A man who tells his wife, you may not go to a wedding, you may not go to a Beis Avol, he has to divorce her because that's not called giving her a normal living condition. I understand why a woman who's not allowed to go to a Beis HaMishnah, to go to a Chasna, can't survive. You know why? As the Mishnah calls it, Iga Noel B'Fano. That's called locking her in. Rashi says, what does that mean? Deles Shel Simcha. She's slamming the door of Simcha in her face. Upikuch Tzar. You need to get away. You need to go to a wedding once in a while. It opens you up a little bit. You meet your friends, and it gives puts a geschmack into your life. So I can understand how it's not tolerable a woman who's prevented from ever going to a wedding. And what's the big deal if she cannot go to a Beis Avol? How are you locking her in? Zakta Gemara, Tana, I'll tell you why. Because everyone knows that eventually they're going to die. And if she never went to be Menachem Oval anybody, if she never went to a Levaya, well, then no one's going to come to her Levaya. Then Kol Bar Yisayfta. Therefore, no one's going to come and reciprocate to give her a husband. Vikadamri ain't Kol Bar Yisayfna, which means no one will bury her. Because, once again, nobody cares. As Rashi Yisayfna is Koivra, Kishem Shalagom Lo Chesed, Kach Lo Yigmalu Ima. She didn't do Chesed, they won't do it with her. The Yaspet, Yiton and Liboy, Shafu Yispadu. You got to realize that every person realizes they're also eventually going to get a husband. Val Yereloi im Noake. Okay, Zok to Gemara. I actually read Rashi, which was a little bit ahead of us. Tanya Hayar Meir Omer, Ma'yachsev, it says in the pasuk, Toiv Laleches al Beis Ovel, Mileches al Beis Mishnah. It's better to go to a Beis Ovel than to go to a Beis Mishnah, a Chasna. Because that's the end of every person. So what's pshat? What is the chai supposed to be thinking about when he goes to a Beis Ovel? A person has to remember that eventually he's going to die too. The safad, if he gave his pedim to other people, yispudunei, they will be masperim, and that's what Rashi was going on. The Yasped Yitna Liboy Shafu Yispadu. He should think that if he's master, then other people will be master too. While it shouldn't bother him to do that because he knows it's going to help him. The Kavar Yikferune. If you bury somebody else, then you'll be buried. The Yadal Yudalune. If he cries by a hesped and raises his voice in sorrow, they'll do that for him. The Lavoy Yovanei. If he's Malava Mace, they'll be Malavim. The Ta'an, if he helped hold the Oren, Yitanune, they will hold his. Oh, so Dovi's asking the Gabalta and Kasha, don't we say that when you help someone, you help bury a mace, that's called a Chesed Shalemes? What type of Chesed Shalemes is if the Gemara is saying it's all about so that Yener should do to you? So this is a very big Kasha. So the Hafla answers that Chesed Shalemes doesn't mean you're not going to get paid back. Chesed Shalamis means you're not going to get paid back by the person who you did the chesed with. that mace will never pay you back. But of course you're going to get schar. And it's still considered a chesed shalemis because you're not getting a direct payment from the person that's doing it for you. I hear. But that's as far of the flaw. That in fact, even a chesed shel emes is a chesed where you're not looking for direct payment from the person who you are being mated. That's one shot. But the Chasam Sofer has a different shot. The Chasam Sofer was big into chesed, and he used to always speak for the Chevra Kadisha and talk about the great chesed of the chesed shel emes. And he explains why it's a chesed shel emes. And he says that we think when we do a chesed, the payback is just because we did someone a favor, we helped them change his flat tire, so because of that, we helped them out. It's a lot deeper than that. The chesed is when you help somebody going through a difficulty, you're not just helping him in Gashmis, you're giving him encouragement. So you're going to make him be more ruchni. Imagine someone stuck on the road and you help him out. So now he has chizuk that day. So he's going to daven better. He's going to learn better. It's going to make him a better Jew. That's the biggest schar of chesed, not for the actual ma'aseh gashmi. It's the benefits that you're going to get. It's the annuities that you're going to get because you now have a share. It's called multi-level marketing. You now have a share in any increase in ruchnius that this yid has. We're going to come up to Shemaim and we're going to have schusim. We're not going to know where it came from. You once smiled at a guy and gave him a hello. That helped him daven better. And that led that he should learn better. And that led that he should be more ehrlich. And that brought him to a whole higher madrega of yid. All that ruchnius is what you're claiming when you're doing the chesed. Zok Chasam Sofer, that really works well if you're doing a chesed with someone who's alive who could still grow in ruchnius. But when you're doing a chesed with a mace, so you're losing that entire dimension because a mace is static. He cannot go up any madregas. So that's why it's a chesed shel emes, because it's a chesed that you're not getting the entire behind the scenes benefit, which is the main benefit that you get from a chesed, is that you tap into the schusim of this yid who's going to increase his Yiddishkeit because of the chizuk that you gave him. Okay, let's see the Gemara weiter. If he says, you know why I don't want you to go to a wedding? You know why I don't want you to go to a Beis Ha'ovel? Because of davar acher. My davar acher. What is this davar acher? If he's afraid that there's preacher people there that will cause her to do aveiros, so then he has a right to prevent her. I don't want you to go to places where you're going to get catcalled, right? What? Maybe in a neighborhood. I don't know. Amr Vashi, Loy Amorin, we didn't say this, Elad is chassid. That's only if he knows for a fact that there's a problem where she's going. Avaloy is chassid, he can't say, well, I'm afraid that's going to happen. That's not reasonable. It's reasonable if he knows there's an issue that he has a right to prevent her from going to these places. But if it's Loy is chassid, we don't know there's an issue, we just want to be paranoid, like Kol Kanumi. So I wanted time. Let's think about this. Why should you go to a Beis Ovel? The Gemara says is because if you go to someone's Avelos, they'll come to you, right? I don't understand. It's the same by Chasna. If you don't go to his Chasna, he won't come to yours. So why is it any different by Chasna? So I thought it's very simple. Most of the times when you're married already, so then some of your friends already came to your wedding. So what's the next event you're thinking of? You're Levaya. That's the only thing I have to think of. Once I'm married, so my friends came to my wedding. Whatever happened. There's no benefit in going. Now I have to really start working on populating my Levaya. That's right. Okay, so more weiter. Does it work that way? Zok to Gemara. What if he tells her, Almanas, that you tell somebody something that I told you? What's the big deal? If he wants her to divulge something that he told her to a third party, so let her just do that. It's Dvarim Shal Kaloim. It's humiliating things. What does this mean? Zokt Rashi, I believe there's two pshatim in Rashi. Rashi says, Dvarim Shal Kaloim. Is there no Rashi here? I thought I saw Rashi. I do not see Rashi, so maybe I saw it. I saw it somewhere that says Dvarim Shal Kaloim is either he wants his wife to go scream at somebody and curse somebody out and be mavasa somebody. That's one shot. And the other one is what the Tosfos Arid says. The Tosfos Arid says, Dvarim Shal Kaloim, Pirish Ha'isha Medaberes and Baila B'Shas Tashmish. The very intimate conversations that they have during Tashmish, he wants his wife to go tell people about it. That's something that's extremely inappropriate and uncomfortable. And if he insists that she talks about their private life, it seems like they had TikTok in those days as well, sharing information that's no one's business. If he wanted her to have a TikTok channel, that's a reason for her to want to divorce him. If he wants you to fill up jugs of water and dump it in the ashpa, what's the big deal? Let her go do that. What does that mean? I'm sorry. What it means is he doesn't want her to get pregnant. So what he tells her is, after we have bia, I want you to walk around so that the zera should drain out of you, so that you won't become pregnant. And there's actually a machloikis rishonim that we learned already once what the problem is. One shita of rishonim hold that not only is a man mechuyev or mitzuvah in zera levatala, it's a big avera to be moitzi zera levatala, to be mashka zera. A woman is also mechuyev in that. So he's asking her to do an avera because she has to be shomer the zera. She's not supposed to be mashkas the zera. That's one shot. The other shot is, even if she doesn't have a mitzvah to be shomer the zera, nevertheless, she wants to have children. Every woman wants to have children. Like we learned earlier in the Gemara, she wants someone who's going to be her canes, someone who's going to walk with her when she's older, someone who's going to take care of her burial needs. So because of that, she wants children, and he wants to prevent that from happening. The Masniza Tana, we learned in the Braisa, what it means is shetamale asara kadimayim. She should fill up 10 jugs of water, the ta'ar lash, and then go pour them out in the ash. The Bishlam, according to Shmuel's pshat, it makes sense. He doesn't want her to have children, or he wants her to be over an aver. But according to the Braisa, so what's the big deal? So she'll fill up jugs of water and dump them in the ashpa. My nafkalamina, tell her, let her just do it. He's making her do something that makes her look like she's crazy. That's terribly humiliating, and she cannot remain in a marriage where husbands forcing her to do things that make her look like she's crazy. As a matter of fact, even other things that don't make her look like she's crazy, but make her look like she's not Urav and Abrius, not fine, not part of normal society, is also a reason for a divorce. Because Amar of Kahana, Hamadis Ishtoi, Shaloisishal, Shashal. He told his wife, I don't want you ever lending out, nor do I ever want you to borrow Napa, sifter, the kivra, it's also some type of sifter, Rechaim is a mill, the tanner an oven. In other words, don't ever, if your neighbor knocks on the door, can I borrow a cup of sugar? Say no. And don't you ever dare go and borrow from our neighbors an egg. Then it's Yosy eating suba. Why? Her neighbor's going to say, I don't know what to deal with her. She's so protective. She won't lend out a spoon. She won't lend out a dish. She won't lend me sugar. And she'll never borrow. That's not, it's a normal behavior. There's a normal synergy between neighbors. And if she doesn't have that, it makes her an outcast. Tani nami hachi, hamad sister shleisishal, v'shleisashal, napa, the kivra, rechayim, the tanur, yoytze v'yitin ksuba. Why? It gives her a bad name amongst her friends. What if she made a nether? or v'shalei serag begadim noim lebanom. She's not going to prepare children for her. She's not going to prepare clothing for his children. Take the shalei b'ksuba. Once again, he has the right to give her a get without a ksuba. Because it gives him a bad name. So he has to make sure not to do anything that'll cause his wife not to have a good name amongst the neighbors, and she needs to do the same. The following women, you can divorce them and not give them a ksuba. A woman who is over the Torah, a mafurish halacha in the Torah, and the Yehudis. So what is das Yehudis? Rashi is shenoagu b'nois Yisrael ba'afal gav deloy ksiva. If a woman violates the custom, how normal women behave, even though it's not a mafurish Torah, she can't say, show me where it says, and then I'll do it. No, even if it doesn't say, if that's the normal way we're eating firzach, and she doesn't do that, you're allowed to divorce her. The Gemara is going to discuss precisely what that is. The Ezehi Das Moshe. What is Das Moshe? What's an example of what Das Moshe is? Machilasa she'enim ma'user. She gives him tevel to eat. She gives him food that they didn't take meiser from. Or umisham shasay nida. She has relations with him when she's a nida. Or v'loy koitza lo chala. She doesn't separate chala from her dough. Or v'noy deres ve'enim mekayemes. Or she makes nedarim and she doesn't fulfill those nedarim. The Ezoi Das Yehudis. What are Das Yehudis? Minhagim? Right. That's a very good child. It's actually
because I'll tell you why. He says hello, who she living with?
Well, she didn't tell him about it. She was machshalim. We'll see in the Gemara. But Shmuel is asking a very important question. Do you force him to give a get or not? So the Rambam says you force him to give a get and he doesn't have to pay the ksuba. And the Ravid says, I disagree. But the Ravid's not clear in what he disagrees about. Does he disagree that you have to force him to give a get? Or does he disagree that you have to give her a ksuba? So there's a big shaila about that. If you force him to give a get, or if he just doesn't have to give her a ksuba. Why wouldn't he have to give her a ksuba? Very simple. The whole reason why we give someone a ksuba is because he should think twice before he divorces her. A woman like this, we actually want him to divorce her. So therefore, even if we don't force him to divorce, we surely say he doesn't have to pay the ksuba because we want to induce him to divorce. We don't want this marriage remaining in place. But what happens if a woman's doing this and she does tshuva? So the Chalkas Mekayig in the Shulchan Aruch says that you have to reinstate her ksuba, but you actually have to write her up a new ksuba because her old ksuba was misbatel with the moment that she started doing these things. So Zok to Gemara, what's das Yudis? Yoitza v'roisha perula. She walks out with her hair uncovered. The Gemara is going to ask, that's a deraisa. So the Gemara is going to explain what part of covering your hair is a deraisa and what part of covering your hair is das Yudis. The tova b'shuk, if she spins thread in public, what could possibly be wrong with that? The Gemara is going to explain. Umidaberes im kolodam, and she flirts with everybody. Abasholoimer afamikalelas yoldov b'fanu. So too, if she curses out his parents in front of him, that's also a reason for him to divorce her and not give her ksuba. Rab Tarfon says, a woman who makes too much noise, who talks very loud. The Gemara is going to elaborate on what that is. The Ezoi Kailonis, what exactly is a Kailonis? When she talks inside her house, her neighbors can hear her voice. But again, we'll elaborate on what the problem is with that. Zok to Gemara, hey Chadami, what's the practical application? Like, how would it happen that she would get him to eat without Maisha? How did that work? That's one shot that Tosfos has. Eat the other. If he knows about it, if he knows that she didn't take Maisris, well, the nifresh, let him be Mafresh Maisris himself and let him not eat it. And either lo yada, if she fed it to him and didn't know about it, we know yada, how did he find out about it? But they were Adam watching. There's spies in his house. He had a spy cam. How did he find out about it? So the more Tricha, the Amr they were sitting and eating dinner, and in conversation it came up. She said, "Ploni kohen tiken li zakri." This kohen, and we already learned that a kohen doesn't mean a kohen. Remember, we learned if Bezin goes over to a woman, who mativoy shall ish zeh. When they saw her hanging out, they saw her being miyachad with somebody, and they asked her, mativoy shall ish zeh, and she said, kohen, he's a kohen. And we had a machloikus between the Gamaliel and Rabbi Shua if we can trust her. Kohen over there meant that he's not a kohen. He's someone who's a kosher b'yuchas, and he won't passel me from marrying a kohen. So she said, kohen tikkun agree. This reliable, erlich person was mafresh trumas and for me. And then V'azol Shailat, and then the husband goes and asks this person, "Oh, thank you so much for helping my wife with trumas and And he says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen your wife in years." And it came out that she was lying, so that's how he would have found out that she was machshalim with eating teva. So he can give her a divorce without a ksuba. If he knew that she was a nida nifra, she shouldn't have relations with her. And if he didn't know, it doesn't make a difference. He is allowed to rely on her saying upon herself that she's Torah. How do you know that Anida accounts for herself? The Yemei Libum to be mata herself, and you could rely on it. Shenemar v'safra law shivas yamim, and we dashin law la'atzma. So we could rely on her. So what is the problem? So the Amrle Ploni Chacham Tir Elias Adam. She had a Mara, she said, and I showed it to this rabbi, and he was matir. And then V'azol Shaila, he went to the rabbi and says, "Did my wife show you a Mara?" Ishtakach Shikri, he says, "Yes, she said the Mara wasn't good." So that's how he knows that he was mashul. The boy Yisema, could you Rabbi Yehuda? The Amr Rabbi Yehuda, if a woman was wearing big nidos, he didn't see it, but she was wearing big nidos when he wasn't around. And then at night she was intimate with him. By the loikala mishamnida. If the husband knew about it, then he gets malchus. Here it's speaking where he didn't know about it, but she was hochskanida b'shchein, and that's how she was machshel. So Tosfos, there's a very, very yesodistic Tosfos over here on Svira. There's a mitzvah for a woman to count her shiva nekiyim. Frek Tosfos, if there's a mitzvah v'safra Allah, then v'mtaimer frek Tosfos, amai ein mevarecha zoba al svirasa. There's a special mitzvah to say v'safra. So a woman during her shiva nekiyim every day, she say hayoim yoim rishoin liyimei svira. The Yishlamers of Tosfos, they mevarchen el b'yovel. We only make a bracha on yovel shemevarchen bezdin b'chol shana. The only bracha you make is when you're counting the years of yovel, because it's a communal sphere. That's when there's a mitzvah sphere for the community. But the shalom yuchal limnos keseder. Oh, not because it's communal. I'm sorry, because we know that you'll be able to finish the cycle. The Chain Omer, the same thing with Omer. We know we're going to count 49 days, and then we're going to come to Shavuos. Avozava Shem Tiratistar Ein Lalimos. The Zava doesn't know if when she's counting, she'll be able to complete the counting of Shiva Nekiyim, because she might see Dam in the middle. Therefore, she doesn't make a bracha. But when you know you're going to get to the end, that's when you make a bracha for your Seimer. Don't ask me what about forgetting. Zok the Heilige Gemara weiter. Zok the Heilige Gemara weiter. V'loi kotza lachala. She didn't separate chala. Again, the Gemara asks, "Chechadami either yada nifrash, either lo yada mino yada." That's the same thing. Lo shricha d'amr lei ploini gabel tikeli. This baker was masakin for me as a isa, the dough. But Ozil Shaili, he went and asked the fellow v'ishtakach shikra, and it turned out being incorrect. What is another type of woman that you could divorce? A woman who makes nadarim and doesn't keep them. And the So the Gemara wants to know, what does that have to do with him? She's not being machshalim, it's her own problem. Right? Didn't Pesach Kron say that his ruchnius, his gashmis is my ruchnius, but his ruchnius is none of my business. So her ruchnius is none of his business. Zok the Gemara, it very much impacts him. Someone who doesn't fulfill their nedarim, that causes their children to die. So shenenmo, it affects them. Shenemar al titnas picha lachtoi lachtis besarcha. And if you have a large scroll that brings the whole pasuk down, he brings the end of the pasuk that Rashi quotes, and Rashi says, because it says v'chaval es ma'aseh yadecha, not keeping your nedarim will damage your ma'aseh yadayim, which refers to the children of a person. Ve'ezah had ma'aseh yadav shel adam havoimer banav uvenois. Rav Nachman Amar Mehacha. From here we know that one's children dies if they don't keep the nedarim. It says lashav hikisias b'neichem. Lashav for nothing, I hate your children. Lashav we darshan is not for nothing, but al iske shav, because you made a shvuah shav, because you lied on the shvuah. That's why your children die. Tanya, Hayir Rab Meir Eimer. Rab Meir used to say, if you know that your wife is a type of woman who makes nedarim and doesn't fulfill them, yachzer v'yadirena. He should put additional isurim on her. Frankly, Gemara, how exactly is that going to help? Yadirena b'may misakinla. Ella, what you should do is yachzer v'yaknitena. You should get her angry. When you get her angry, she'll make her nedarim in front of you, and at least you'll know what type of nedarim she made. And then kadei shetidar b'fanav v'yafer la, and then he'll be able to be made for the nedarim. Because a person can be made for the nedarim of his wife if he knows about them. But if he doesn't know about them, he can't be made for them. So the best thing is to get her to make the nedarim in front of him. So it seems like Reb Meir argues on our Mishnah. At least a certain Rishonim will learn that way, because Reb Meir, you don't divorce her. Rather, you use this ploy to eliminate. It's called whack-a-mole. As she makes nedarim, you are going to be mevatel them. Amrullah, they told Reb Meir, you cannot play whack-a-mole in your life. You cannot live together with a snake, but just be careful, because eventually something's going to go wrong. So you're better off just divorcing. What if his wife doesn't separate challah? Our Mishnah says you must divorce her. Rabbi Yehuda says, all you do is anytime she gives you anything, be mafish your own challah. They told him, you can't have someone live like that, because he might forget once. I'm sorry? Yeah, but if you forget, you can be mafish it after. Yeah. If you hold that even for something like a nether, which is not as common, is a problem of ein adam darim nachash b'chfifa achas, surely when it comes to challah, which is an everyday occurrence, you can't live with a woman if you have to be so careful. But if you only said the halacha of ein adam darim nachash b'chfifa achas regarding challah, maybe avalha zimnin the mikri v'achar. It's exactly the opposite of what I said. Manda masliaha, the mandamar who learns that you could fix the situation with challah by separating it. Koshkenach, you can surely fix an nedarim. But if you said you could only fix the nedarim, you might end up eating challah, eating tevel by mistake, and therefore you shouldn't do it. So it's not going on the whack-a-mole, it's going on the eitzah. In other words, Reb Meir would not necessarily agree with Reb Yehuda, but Reb Yehuda would definitely agree with Reb Meir. If Reb Yehuda says you could protect yourself by being mafish challah each time, he surely holds that you could protect yourself from the nedarim, which are not as common. And now we're going to get into a very controversial sugya of covering one's hair. Ve'ezai das Yehudis yoytza v'roisha peru. Frankly, more roisha peru dairaisi. A woman who walks around with her hair uncovered, that's not a minik, that's an iser dairaisa. T'chsevu para es roisha isha. In Rashi has two pshatim. It says that we uncover her hair by the saita, and there's two ways we can learn from that. One pshat is if the Torah says we're uncovering her hair, well, obviously that's not the normal way for a woman to walk around. That's one pshat. The second pshat is the reason why we cover her hair is because we're trying to show. That was the second pshat of Rashi. The first pshat of Rashi is since you're doing it to her to be menavel her, to menavel the soida, it's a raya that we're probably doing it midah connected midah. Just like you uncovered your hair for this man who you were mizana with, that's why we're going to do it to you. So that's one pshat of Rashi, and the second pshat which Rashi likes better is in the fact that we're doing it to her. When she came in, Most people walk around with their hair covered. The Tana Rebbe Shmuel, as hara levanois Yisrael shelo yetzu b'purah. So we see deraisa. So you're right. Deraisa, midaraisa would be enough if kalsa, shapradomi. Midaraisa, she can walk out with a kalsa. What is a kalsa? Rashi says women used to wear baskets on their head. But imagine you have, like a becher that has a stand, there's really a clay kibble on top and on bottom, right? So they had these baskets that looked the same way. And because of that, women wore them as hats. I believe I posted a picture of it on the WhatsApp group. So this is what it looked like. So this was made out of reeds or it was some type of woven basket. So she wore it on her head, but that crown, this is not like a double-decker strommel like people wear nowadays, or a triple-decker strommel. What it is there's actually a basket in there. So they used to wear those things. It was a Greek way of walking around. Men used to wear too.
Headdress.
I'm sorry?
In the Yemenite women when they get married.
So yeah, but it's not a basket. They used to keep things in the basket. They used to keep their spinning supplies in the basket on top of their head. And it wasn't solid, it was woven, so their hair was visible through there. So Zog to Gemara, Midaraisa, that would be good enough. Yeah, I don't see a clay kibble over there in that picture. I have to look very hard to find this one. But Das Yehuda says, so that's a basket that holds things? I can't say.
It looks like a basket.
I see red pom-poms.
No,
the clay kibble is that means you can put things on top of it. There's a receptacle on top. So it's like two baskets that you sew their bottoms together, and one side acts as your hat, and the other side acts as the thing that you're going to hold with. So Dr. Gemara, I feel called Sanami also. But Das Yehuda says even that inappropriate. Amar Abasi, Amar Abyechanan, Kalsa Ein Ba Mishum Pura Rosh. If she wore that didn't cover her so well, that would say she's not a Pura Rosh. Hi Bar Reb Zeira asked, I don't understand. Heicha, what was the case? 11 B'Shuk, if she's walking out in the Shuk with that, well, Das Yehudasi. It's also, what do you mean Ein Ba Mishum Pura Rosh? It's Das Yehudasi. It might not be a Daraisa, but it's violating the custom of the Eden. The Ella b'chotzer. Elamai, she's in her own chotzer. In your own chotzer, a woman doesn't have to cover her hair. If you're going to say a woman has to have her hair completely covered, even in her own chotzer, if came layanach the bas, Lavram Avinu, sheishavis tachas baila. Well, then no one could possibly be mekayim it. Even though it says that Shmuel, his mother was zoichet to have a son like Shmuel, shaleira koiras beisa saris roisha. The walls of even her own home never saw her hair. But that was a milsa d'tznius. Normally, normally in a woman's home, her hair sometimes is going to be uncovered. No, even in their private job, even in their courtyard, vice versa. But I guess that's a place where people wouldn't see her. It must be that in her chutzner, people wouldn't see her. Yeah. It means it's mean when she travels from chutzner to chutzner to the mavi, where there's not too many people. That's where Ein Ba Mishum Pura Rosh with a kalsa. To go out in the public, there you need to have a proper hair covering. But to go out in a place that's not so busy, so there a kalsa would be enough. Zok more about her. V'tova b'shuk. If she spins in the shuk in public, that's a reason to divorce her. I'm reading of Shmuel. It's b'maris roisel of ne'odom. It's because when she's working, she's uncovering her arms. That's a lack of tznius. It's when she makes her threads hang down in between her legs, meaning so that it draws attention to that area. That's a very preachistic way to behave. And she also speaks to everybody. What does it mean? It means she likes to flirt with the boys. Once upon a time, have a kazilna basrei de Rav Ukva. I was walking behind Rav Ukva because we saw Lahi Arabia, this Arab woman, Dava Yosva. She was sitting, and what she did was she was trying to attract the attention of the Jewish boys and to get them drawn into a conversation. So Koshadja Pilcha, she held her spinning needle, Vitava, Vered connected Penel, and she B'davka allowed the thread to hang down in a place where it would draw attention to a not sneezing place. Even the chazisinon, and when that's how she was doing her normal spinning in a very not sneezing fashion. And as soon as she saw us coming, Pesikte lepilcha, she stopped and she took her stick and she threw it. And then she said, Amr li ulam havli plach. Oh, I dropped my thing. Can you pick it up for me? So this way he should bend down right in front of her, and then he should hand it to her, and then she would engage him. So that was a terrible thing that she did. But she was an Arab. Amar ba Rav Ukva milsa. Rav Ukva said something about her. My Amar ba. What did Rav Ukva say about her? Ravina Amar tova b'shuk. This is what we mean in the Mishnah. When the Mishnah says tova b'shuk, Amar ba, that's what he said about her. And Rabbanan Amri medaberes im kaladim Amar ba. This is what the Mishnah means when it says medaberes im kaladim. So this woman just displayed the two non-sneistic behaviors that would earn her a get. If she curses those who gave birth to him, meaning his parents in front of him. Meaning, even if she doesn't curse out his parents in front of him, but if she curses out his parents to his children, if she tells her kids, oh, your grandparents, that's also a reason to divorce his wife. My grandchildren are just like my children. So therefore, if you curse out someone to their grandchildren, that's also a reason to divorce. You know what she said? In front of her children, she said, I wish a lion ate your grandfather. If she said something like that to the grandchildren, that's a reason to divorce. My kailonitz. What is a woman who makes too much noise? It means it means regarding intimacy, she makes a lot of noise. Lest your mind wanders, Rashi says, he wants her to go to the mikveh. She doesn't want to go to the mikveh. Merivim, she fights with him about not wanting to have relations with him. The neighbors hear about it, and it's embarrassing. The other pshat is a woman who has terrible pain during tashmish, and therefore she cries out in pain, and you can hear it elsewhere. That's also a problem of hakailanos. So why is this by the attributes of her personality? This should be by a woman who has physical ailments. It means a woman who's fighting with her husband about their relationship, and it gets out on the street, everybody can hear. That's what we're talking about, a kailanos, who we can divorce his wife. Okay, we'll stop here, and we'll be mamshech tomorrow at this Mishnah.